I really thank everybody for joining today's webinar, and we want to welcome you to the webinar titled More Than Just Lead Generation, How to Use Form Builders Across the Buyer's Journey. So today's webinar is brought to you by Xverify, a leader in real-time intelligent email verification and JotForm, an easy-to-use form builder to capture leads for every business. We also have a special guest speaker on the panel today, which is Laura Renner, the owner of Freedom Makers and a JotForm user. Freedom Makers is a company that helps military spouses become virtual assistants and connects them to small businesses that they can help. So it's just going to be us lovely ladies today sharing a wealth of information with you on how to capture more data across the buyer's journey. And I'm just going to take a moment to introduce myself, and then I'm going to let our panelists take a moment to introduce themselves. So, yep, here on the screen you can see us and you can see our faces in real time. But I'm Krista Brea, and I'm a digital marketing specialist with Xverify. I've been with our team since before we even launched our tool, and I wear a lot of hats in the company. In my free time, I love to just kind of be a nerd. I really enjoy listening to podcasts and just doing online research. Plus, I'm also a dog mom and a newlywed, so I got a lot of things going on there in my personal life and in my free time. Annabelle, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Krista. I just want to say, thank you again, everybody, for coming out today. We're really excited to share some information about how to use forms across the buyer's journey. My name is Annabelle. I work as a marketing manager at JotForm. I've been here about 1.5 years now, and similar to Krista, I wear a lot of different hats. Webinars is one of the things that I do. In my free time, I love hanging out with my boyfriends, going to concerts, and I also love to hike and ski.
Excellent. And Laura, go ahead and tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be a part of this. And I am the founder of Freedom Makers. I'm a small business owner. And I came up with the idea when I was doing recruiting for small business owners and struggling, or meeting business owners who were struggling to commit to having an employee. And at the same time, with my background in the military, knowing how spouses struggle to find work. So that's how that came about. In my free time, I'm also overly busy, committed, I guess. Do a lot of snowboarding and traveling, and just also recently started coaching a U19 rugby team. So too much to do.
Wow, that certainly sounds like you guys both have a lot going on, and that's excellent, and everything that you do. And I'm sure your business keeps you busy as well. So getting down to our main topic today, which is the buyer's journey. From a high-level approach, the buyer's journey is really the steps that a buyer takes toward deciding to make a purchase with your company. So this is really essential, and it's a very essential part of your business. During this journey, there are 3 main stages. The awareness stage, where a user has a problem and doesn't yet know how to solve it. The consideration stage, where the user is now ready to solve the problem, but they're looking at various solutions and services. And then there's finally the decision-making stage, where they're pretty clear with what solution they want to move forward with, but they're kind of comparing services and moving forward in that stage. So during our panel today, basically, this is kind of it's kind of like a live case study because we're going to have Laura discuss how she uses forms throughout her various stages of the buyer's journey to benefit her business. Now, if any questions come up during the webinar, feel free to type them into the questions log or the chat box. And we're going to hold the questions to the end. And then at the end, we're just going to, based on how much time we have left, we're going to go through those questions and get them answered for you. So we're going to start with the awareness stage of the buyer's journey. So as I stated before, the awareness stage is where someone goes from sensing that they have a problem to realizing that something is wrong, but not exactly knowing what the issue is. So this is kind of like more of a research phase where they're trying to figure out how to fix a problem that they have. And in this stage, it's kind of like content is king. You need to have a lot of content telling people how to solve their problems. You need to align yourself kind of as the superhero and fix problems that the user is struggling with. So in the case with Freedom Makers, Laura's content speaks to small business owners. Small business owners tend to start up like a new business, and then they get so busy doing small tasks just to keep things afloat, they're unable to complete tasks that actually move the needle for their business. So I was checking out Laura's site, and she drafted an awesome blog post around how most small business owners are spending time working in their business rather than working on their business. And a key component of that article actually speaks volumes and can actually emotionally connect to small business owners, making them feel like, hey, that's exactly how I feel in my business. I'm spending too much time doing something and not actually working on something else that's important or working on the next launch that they need to do in order to gain more revenue. And, Laura's article really highlights areas where solopreneurs spend too much time on things like bookkeeping, website updates, appointment settings, instead of putting their energy into their marketing strategies, nurturing relationships, and filling in their sales funnel. So this kind of content is what really drives the users to want to learn more. And another great use case in this awareness stage is to be able to provide ebooks, white papers, analyst reports, case studies, etc. You want valuable content to get into the hands of your site visitors, and you want your site visitor to be able to get them as easy as possible. You want to be able to start turning the visitors into leads. So that's why you need ways to generate leads from that content. And a lot of times, small businesses do this, and even large businesses do it, especially in the B2B realm, through gated content. 80% actually of B2B content is known to be gated because it's an excellent way to generate leads. So Annabelle, can you give me some examples on how JotForm users utilize forms as a lead magnet?
Yeah, of course. So we've seen a lot of our users use contact forms, use different forms for gated content. People can download them. And that is just like super beneficial to them because they are they're able to get valuable information from these individuals looking for the content. So they're able to get their name, their email, their industry, their job title, their company, all kinds of information that's going to be very valuable down the line. And so we see them use these forms to get this information and then integrate it with, say, like a MailChimp or a CRM like Salesforce or HubSpot or something like that, so that they can kind of like manage and organize it all in one place.
Oh, that's excellent. And I know, Laura, you use the forms for a lot of various things. I know when we were having our conversation in the past, you mentioned to me that you use MailChimp to send out more of your gated content. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Sure. Yes, one of our awareness campaigns, if you will, we have a PDF. I guess it would be, I don't know if it's a white paper, but a downloadable, and it's about how to get control of your email. And so we have it on MailChimp as a way for people they have to submit their email address in order for us to email them the PDF. And then that gets added to our mailing list for the newsletter, right? And so, and we've done that now with a PDF, but we also have another one with a form on JotForm that people get to through MailChimp, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I know that Annabelle mentioned that JotForm is integrated with MailChimp as well. And even on the XVerify side, we do have an integration with MailChimp. I know it's a very popular platform that solopreneurs use and startups use because they do offer a lot of free services as well at MailChimp just to get up and running, to start your email communication strategy. And email is you know, email is absolutely necessary when you're in an online world. It's a way to remind your customers of things you got going on in your business. It's how you probably joined our webinar today because you got the reminder via email to sign in. So of course it's really necessary. And that gated content that comes in through the email is really the best way to get your information, because, you know, it's going to just send to you automatically, and then that way you can find it again. It's not just pushing you to a web URL that you're never going to find again until you go back and fill out the whole process over. It's going to be actually in your inbox, so you can search for that and have that copy of the PDF, or at least a link to directly get back to that content piece that you were looking for. So yeah, gated content, it's an excellent way to generate leads. But, you know, one of the drawbacks is that when site visitors are in the early stages of the buying decision, sometimes they don't put in a valid email address. I know in some cases, if the lead magnet is sent by email, the customer doesn't always want to receive emails. So sometimes they make a fictitious email address up, or they just throw any of them in there just to try to gain access to the information. Now, at XVerify, we are an industry leader when it comes to validation. So from what we see on average is about 15% of newly acquired email addresses tend to be garbage, especially when you're promoting your content. So if you are a business owner and you're paying to promote a piece of content, you could easily be paying $5, $10 or even more per lead. And that can add up to quite a bit of money. So if 15% of those leads are not even good quality email addresses, that's a lot of money that's going out of your pocket. Now, with Laura running a B2B business, that problem might not hit you so hard. I think a lot of that is seen more on the consumer side, but collecting invalid contact credentials can still be devastating to your business. Have you had any struggles with collecting invalid data, Laura?
Yes, you know, it's one of those things where we kind of see it as the unfortunate side of business. In our case, we notice a lot of personal email addresses signed up. So immediately I'm suspicious. I'm like, why is it a personal email address like at Hotmail or at Gmail? And sometimes my colleagues say, oh, it's because that's their spam email account. And it's like, no, but that's not what we want. But so we do monitor how the percentage of people opening our email addresses, and just kind of hope that enough people are getting it. So we are kind of operating in the dark on that side of things. And but you know, they can't get the PDF unless it's a real email address, right? But the forms that we have that they can access, they can get those regardless. Once on the form though, it says, would you like to receive updates from us? And then they can enter their email address again and to sign up for our newsletter. So that's kind of like our workaround to try and get a valid email address. But really, when we know we're going to get bounces and cleanups when we send out, and we just monitor how many open, and as long as we're doing better than the industry average, we're like, okay. So yes, it's part of what we view as the cost of the unfortunate cost of doing business.
Yeah, of course. And kind of how you mentioned that, you know, sometimes as a business, you're B2B, so sometimes you get Gmails and Hotmails. But I think even from what we see on our side of the business, which is also B2B, smaller startups are still using these freebie email accounts just because it's easy, it's quick to check. Maybe they're really not that technically savvy to set up their own mail server, they just don't have access to that. So sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be a credible lead. And then especially if you're working in the B2C space, you're going to definitely expect to have the free email addresses that are coming in. And then also with the mentioning of bounces and other problems that you've seen in the past though before, Laura, I know with MailChimp and majority of the other email platforms that are out there, they're going to automatically remove bounces from your list so they don't happen again in the future. So that's always good, because each hard bounce that you get could impact the overall deliverability of your brand delivering email addresses. So really that's kind of the idea is you want to eliminate as many hard bounces as possible. And Xverify does have an integration with Jotform. And this is something that you can easily enable on any form that you set up. You just have to have an account with Xverify, and you would have to have a Jotform account as well as your forms. But this way we can actually validate your data in real time as you collect it. So if a user's on your page, and let's say they might even be using their smartphone and they could just make a typo because they're texting on a small device, it would actually prompt that user, hey, you entered invalid credentials, and to retry again. And this isn't just a syntax check. This would be checking the entire email address to make sure that user is a real account at, for example, Gmail, Hotmail, or freedommakers.com. We can check any email address that's out there. So the end user would get that notification on their end to be able to convert them. I know on web forms, web forms and other common problems with them is spam bots attacking forms. Xverify certainly can help with that because we're checking the email address before the user actually hits the submit button and it gets sent into your funnel. But Annabelle, are there other ways that you can help people with spam bots through Jotform?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So at Jotform, our user security is of the utmost importance. And so we have a few different ways a few different features that they can use to protect their information and avoid spam bots. The first are the CAPTCHAs. So like Xverify, we have a few CAPTCHA widgets, which are incredibly easy to integrate into your form. You just go to the settings tab, type in CAPTCHA, and then you can choose which one you'd like. We have a math one, a drawing one, and also one by Google. In addition to that, we also have the ability for users to only allow one submission per IP address. And that's also something that you can just quickly go to your settings and then just click that on or off, and that also helps protect against spam bots. The last thing that we have is you can also disable your form after a certain number of submissions too, so that people aren't submitting over and over again, which sometimes spam bots can do.
Yeah, we see that happen a lot. Before people add the layer of protection to their form, we've had many customers on board with us because that's the exact problem that they would experience is way too much duplication coming through their forms and just spamming they're getting email alerts because it's every time they get a registration, it sends them an email, hey, you got a new lead that's been submitted, and all of a sudden their inbox is spammed because they're just getting all this garbage come through, and kind of that's how we also help solve those problems. I know one of the drawbacks to using a CAPTCHA is that they can be really annoying, especially the basic Google ones, where you have to enter the letters and numbers, and it's always skewed and kind of a challenge to read. Even myself, who's web savvy, right? I struggle with that from time to time. So I like how you guys have other options and other widgets, like doing a math problem. Well, that's a lot simpler. Doing a drawing. Now, I haven't tried the drawing one, but that sounds very interesting. I know sometimes with regular CAPTCHAs now, sometimes they ask you, find all the traffic lights, find all the pictures of vehicles. And sometimes you also feel like, I found everything, but they still tell you got it wrong. And so sometimes CAPTCHAs can just be a real pain. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think that the CAPTCHAs are a lot more complex than Xverify because with Xverify, it's on the users and they type in their email and it's either valid or it's not, and then they have to enter one that is valid if it's not, and then that's kind of it. So there's no extra work on the form builder side, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? It's always fantastic to have multiple layers of protection in place for your forms. So anything that you put in place to kind of combat spam is definitely a step in the right direction, even if you're not using Xverify, but putting a CAPTCHA in place, because you don't want to have garbage coming in and just ruining your salespeople's tactics. So I think we kind of spoke a lot about common pain points in the awareness stage of the buyer's journey. And we can shed some more light on the consideration stage. And in the consideration stage, this is where the buyer is now fully aware of their problem and is now looking at the best way to solve their problem. So with Laura's Freedom Makers business, small business owners realize now that they need to offload some of their work. So it's time for them to evaluate solutions to find something that best fits their needs. But Laura actually has done something innovating and smart because she's also optimizing her time for her own business. And she's utilized Jotform to create a task audit quiz to make sure that a lead is both a good fit for her company to work with and a good fit for the lead to work with her. So Laura, can you tell us a little bit more about how this task audit form has helped you match the perfect clients to the right virtual assistants for the job?
Sure. I think part of the issue with a lot of our clients are solopreneurs, as you've pointed out, and so they're wearing every single hat in their business, and they have a hard time figuring out what can they let go of. And even if they know they want to let go of it, how do they let go of it so that someone else is doing it, right? How do you transfer that information that's in your brain to outside of your brain so that someone else can do it? And so that's part of what the task audit does. It's really simple. It's just a list of sample tasks, and you choose only I can do it. It could go either way, or someone else can definitely do it, or not applicable because it's not a part of my business, right? And so they can just go in, and there's 6 categories like sales, operations, finance, things like that, and they can just go in and say and just click the ones that how the task would work within their business, and then that gets them thinking, okay, these are the things that I want to let go of. So then now they have that clear picture. And then from there, we try and assess, do they have a method for letting that go? And then based on the type of tasks that they selected, we can match them with the right person.
That's awesome. I was also going to ask, because I was doing a little bit of research, and I know that, sometimes solopreneurs have a hard time of delegating tasks. Is that also something that you hear a lot of struggles with? Like they feel like, oh, only themselves can do it, right?
Yes, and that's part of all of our awareness focuses a lot on that. And one of the things I always say is let go what you're comfortable letting go of, because if you're not comfortable, then all you're doing is paying for someone to not work for you, right? So, and that's part of our screening, is just making sure they are ready and that they have systems in place, or at least in mind, so that they can get the most out of their Freedom Maker.
Right, and not to put you too much in the spot, Laura, but I was kind of wondering, what are some of the most common tasks that people use virtual assistants to do?
Sure. A lot of it tends to be around marketing. So social media execution is what I say. So they write the blog, but they never get it published. We're all guilty of that. So taking care of things like that, prepping the newsletter to go out, and making sure that email addresses are cleaned and updated, a lot of those things. And then the last most commonly requested, I call it data management. And I try to clarify, it's not like high tech where it's millions of bits of data. It's the 30 business cards I got from a networking lunch that I have been sitting on my desk for 6 months. Can you get them into the CRM, get them into our newsletter, things like that, appointment setting, all the data management at the level that a solo business owner deals with.
No, that's an excellent example, because, on the sales side of our business, we do a lot of trade shows, and we come back with stacks and stacks of business cards, and somebody has to do that data entry to log them all into Excel to import them into the CRM. So I can imagine that's kind of a painful process. And with business cards, oh, geez, going one by one, yeah, I guess they would have to either physically hand them off or scan them in to the virtual assistant. Okay.
Right. It depends on because there are, card scanning apps, but then those aren't necessarily correct all the time either. So it just depends on the comfort with technology of the solo business owner. So they may mail them to their client or Freedom Maker, or scan them or take pictures of them and send them.
Oh, that's an excellent idea. I mean, kind of we don't think about snail mail as much anymore, but if that's the best option, which sounds like it is, just throw them into an envelope and put them in the mail out to somebody else to handle that task. I'm sure just like waiting a few extra days is also a best process for a follow-up, because you don't want to follow up with somebody too soon, like after going to a convention, probably within, a week or so later. So it's still fresh in their mind, but, you still want to have that strong level of follow-up soon after. So I think that is a really great piece of advice for business owners out there who could take a little bit of things off their plate and have somebody else help them with something like that. And so kind of like getting back to that task audit, the way that you use the forms for, you really, strategized a way to learn more about your customers. So Annabelle, what are some other unique ways that clients are using your forms to learn more about their customers to better market them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'd say, it all really depends on what the business's strategy is. Some companies are just looking for general demographics, such as, the city where they live, their age, their gender, that sort of thing. Others, though, I'd say for the most part, are really looking for those like specific details. And that's kind of like what I touched on earlier. That's going to be stuff like the industry that you're in, your company, your job title, your name, your email. And getting those specific details is what's gonna, help you paint that picture of your customer or your lead, for that matter. I know I was reading online the other day that MailChimp was saying that segmented personalized lists outperform generalized lists with 14% higher email open rates. And so we always recommend to our users who are looking to generate leads, just ask those details that you actually like, that you really need to know, that it's going to help you with create a more complete picture of your customer.
Now that brings up another thing to my mind. I know that sometimes you can use surveys. I think you guys have an integration with like a SurveyMonkey too.
We actually don't. SurveyMonkey is one of our competitors, but we do. A lot of our users do use surveys to get feedback or to just kind of send that out to customers or to leads.
Yeah, because I know that their service is more around like questionnaires, and you guys have been more focused around generating leads. But yeah, you can still utilize your service to create a questionnaire that you send out to your audience to kind of pull them in certain areas to learn more about them. So that way you can collect those demographics and kind of import them into your database to know more about what their end user is looking for, right? So this way, like when it comes to personalization and segmentation, that's definitely going to get more opens on your list. And even if you're a small business and you have like a list of 5,000 or less, even if you customize that content and you niche it down to the right person in the audience, you're going to be speaking more to them directly, and that's going to help you generate a sale just by having more knowledge behind that data.
Absolutely. Customization is so key. And the beauty of JotForm too is it's a form builder, but you can use it for any type of information collection. Like you mentioned, you could do a survey, you could do a contact form, you could do a lead gen form for the gated content, you could do a payment form. So, kind of like what Laura has done with her account, you can include as many different forms as you want in one account, and then collect different information from different people and all have that stored in one place. You can go back and manage it, organize it, track it. So it just makes it really easy.
Yeah, no, that's super excellent to be able to identify those key elements that are important to specific subscribers on your list so you can communicate directly to them. And that, again, is another important part of the consideration segment of the buyer's journey, because they're going to feel like, wow, they know more about me. They know more about my problem. They know more about how to solve it. This company is the expert in that, and I'm going to make the buying decision to move on with them. So other great resources that people look for in the consideration stage would be doing podcasts, doing webinars such as this, putting out e-guides, providing tutorials, providing helpful pieces of content that the user can really get value from. Another thing that I did want to point out is Laura did give a great example of how she qualifies her leads. And like she kind of takes the ones that are a good fit, and then she actually moves them, whether she knows this or not, she moves them into the decision making stage. So like we were just mentioning, the decision making stage is where a buyer already has a firm idea of what they want and how they're coming up to the close of the buyer's journey, and they're soon going to make a purchase. So in this stage, customers are actually comparing services, features, benefits, prices with maybe multiple vendors, for example, or even if you're a retail shop, maybe they're looking across multiple stores that are selling similar products. But one of the most important ways to sell to someone is to build a strong rapport. Laura actually makes an excellent example out of that because she's qualifying her leads and then she matches them up with potential virtual assistants and allows them to actually set up a time to have a one-on-one conversation with each virtual assistant to determine which one they feel is best suited for the job. So basically, it's kind of more like an interview process. So Laura, can you tell us a little bit about how you use JotForm to create meetings between your leads and your virtual assistants?
Sure. Yes, we have a form. We call it we actually named it Choose Your Freedom Maker. And the top part is where they just kind of outline the tasks they want us to do for them. And in the middle, it's a date widget where they can choose a time window and a date for when we'll schedule calls with up to 4 freedom makers for them to speak with. And then at the bottom, we have a setup fee payment setup. And so then that takes them to PayPal to pay the setup fee. And when they do that, that triggers it. We use Zapier, and it launches a checklist for us in Process Street that we use for onboarding new clients, and it gives us a Slack notification, and we make it cute, like, congratulations, so-and-so is ready to get started. And so then we know, okay, now we got to go find up to 4 qualified and available and interested freedom makers for them to choose from. And so that's what we do. And to your point, part of the reason why we included that setup fee is we noticed that they would maybe speak with a few and then we'd never hear from them. And so they were still shopping. And by including, and the setup fee is not a lot, but by including it, it made sure they were committed to actually getting started with us. So it didn't waste our time. It covers our costs in case it does waste our time or in case they don't move forward with us. And but at the same time, make sure that they are actually ready to get started.
Oh, I think that's absolutely excellent. And I do think that's necessary as well. I mean, you guys are a small business. There's a lot of tasks that you're juggling. You don't want somebody to waste your time. So it's really cool that you were able to use the form to collect the payment right up front. How easy was it to set up, payment collection on the JotForm?
It was very easy. You just go to the integrations and I selected PayPal, and then I had to add my login or my account information for PayPal. And then it was so easy that afterward I was like, did I do it? Because that was all I had to do. And so, there was some parts like we have a hidden calculator because, for that form we don't, but for other forms we have a hidden calculator, and that took a couple more steps. But the actual integration of PayPal, literally, afterward I was like, did I do it? Because it was literally that easy.
No, that sounds awesome. And that's exactly what people want to know is, how easy is it to start collecting payments? Now, Annabelle, is that a part of your premium service, or how does the payment processing work with JotForm?
Sure, yeah. So JotForm, just to start off, has over 30 payment processors, including PayPal, Stripe, Square, the big name brands. And so, it's very trustworthy when you're integrating those into your forms. But yeah, you can collect payments with the free plan. I think free users can collect up to 10 payments per month. And then if you'd like to collect more, then you would just upgrade to the bronze plan. And so we have them available on any of our pricing plans.
Awesome. And what is the cost of your bronze plan, just so that the attendees are aware?
Yes, actually, I was going to share a screen at the end. I believe, yeah, as we have both the monthly and then the annual prices.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's excellent to know. So I'm glad that was really easy to set up. And then also, Laura, going back to kind of your matchmaking criteria there with, tying your lead, helping them find a virtual assistant. I know that you kind of have like a built-in meeting planner where they can kind of select a date, and then that will send it over to the virtual assistant's calendar to kind of set up that meeting. Can you tell us a little bit about that tool and which widget it is that you use?
Yes, it's a date picker widget within JotForm. And what's interesting is we have Freedom Makers, I think now in 7 or 8 time zones. And so I always like to give 2 days notice, or have the client not choose earlier than 2 days, so that we can have that time for everyone to review the opportunity, because especially the ones in Europe being so many hours ahead, giving them a chance to view the opportunity. And at first I would just tell them, please give us 2 days notice. And sometimes they would do it that day or the next day, and I'd have to go back and say, can you give us another date? And then I figured out you can actually set it so that they cannot pick something unless it's 2 days out. And that totally freed up a lot of our time as well. And so that widget has those parameters. Like I think we did weekdays only, and has to be at least 2 business days out before, or weekdays out before they can choose it. And so that was really nice. That freed us up a little bit.
Yeah, being able to block out time is essential. Like I know that, for example, on our website, if we offer a calendar meeting for just website visitors to book a meeting with one of our sales reps, like we have to block out certain times, or make sure that that calendar is also synced with their internal calendar, so that if they already have a meeting scheduled, that option doesn't come up as they're open and available to have a conversation on their end. So this way it just streamlines the process and makes everything much more easier. But I know that, really at the end of the buyer's journey, that's really where you're closing the deal, you're setting up your meetings, you're collecting your payment, and then it's really up to you at that point to continue nurturing those leads, getting repeat customers, and kind of massaging the business from there. So clearly, JotForm has a lot of powerful integrations and widgets. So Annabelle, can you kind of mention some of the fan favorites, some examples of how customers are using other widgets? I know you threw out a lot of good options with other payment processors, and I know that, of course, anybody collecting money online, they're going to need that part of the widget on the form. So what are some other big ones that are often used?
Yeah, for sure. So our most used widget is going to be the mobile response. And that basically is just, making your form responsive on mobile devices. And that's great for any companies that are, selling online, or where they have, most of their users are accessing their website from mobile phone. And I think that's probably most companies in 2019. So we do recommend that people include that in their forms, just to make sure that it's going to look great on mobile. The second one is the smooth signature. So that's basically just like an e-signature widget. So, if you're needing to get consent from a lead, or if you're needing them to sign off on something before they download your content, it's also a really nifty one. And then the last one is the terms and conditions. And so, again, if there's some sort of policy or something like in the content that maybe you don't want it to be duplicated or shared, they would just be able to click that terms and conditions box and then submit the form, and then it's legally binding after that. So those are our top 3. And besides that, though, we do have hundreds of different widgets to choose from, and they range from, including a YouTube video on your form, to other social media, to math calculations, to uploading images, to payments. And so it really just is kind of like whatever you're looking for. That's the beauty of JotForm, is just like the flexibility and the versatility of it all.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm sure many, many businesses are using you guys. I know you have thousands and thousands of customers that are on board. So really, I think we kind of covered all the various stages of the buyer's journey. And I know that we're coming up close to our time limit. So I don't know if there was any last things that you wanted to highlight, Annabelle or Laura, before we start taking in some questions, if we have any.
I guess if people, want more information, just please visit jotform.com, and then you'll be able to create a free account, or to kind of like browse the site and see what other features are offered. And then I will also, I want to share my screen for the pricing page. So while I pull it up, Laura, do you want to take it away?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll share one of the things we do once the the client, the small business owner has chosen their Freedom Maker, we send even more forms to them. Like we almost bombard them with forms. And one is we ask them to create an agenda for the training, kickoff training. So they create the agenda for that. And then we have another form that helps them think through how they're going to build systems around the tasks they're delegating. And then their initial payment. So every time a client pays us, it's through JotForm. And that really helps with our cash flow, because in the past, what would happen is I would say, okay, your Freedom Maker worked 10 hours, you have 5 hours left. Do you want to add more hours? Because we have them set up on prepay, and the client would respond, yes, add 10 hours. So then I would manually go into QuickBooks, create an invoice for 10 hours, send it to them, and then who knew when they were going to pay it? In the meantime, I still had to pay the Freedom Maker. So now we have a form, and we say, your Freedom Maker worked 10 hours, you have 5 hours left. Click here if you want to add more hours. They go in, they type 10, it automatically calculates the price, and they have to go to PayPal to pay it. So we get the money immediately. We get the payment immediately rather than waiting for them to pay their QuickBooks invoice whenever they want it. So right off the bat, they get 3 forms to start with us, plus the form for choosing their Freedom Maker. So we love our forms, and we use them throughout the entire customer journey.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Laura. It's so awesome that you're able to use JotForm for so many different things. We love hearing that. And the fact that you're able to collect those payments so easily and then get paid right away, that's also just something that's super awesome, especially for a small business. So we're really happy to hear that.
Yeah, and then we also use the forms to enroll military spouses to become a Freedom Maker. So we use it from everything from lead generation all the way through the like you said, and now we're rolling out customer satisfaction surveys. So our entire buyer's journey we're using JotForm for.
That's so awesome. Cool. Well, I just wanted to briefly go over the pricing of JotForm before we close today. So if you are interested in a monthly plan, our bronze goes for $19 a month, up to gold, which is $99. We also have an enterprise plan for companies that they're for larger companies looking to get different departments under kind of one umbrella, one account. And then if you were to go to the yearly plans, you get a bit of a discount. So the bronze plan would be a little shy of $16, and then gold would be a little over $80. So there's a plan for companies of any size on any budget, just kind of depending on what you're looking for.
That's excellent. Thank you for putting that on the screen and highlighting that. And then if anybody else who is attending would like to get more information on X-Verify or even Freedom Makers, there is a handout that is attached into the slides today. So if you are in your software, you can just go to the handouts area and you'll be able to find the X-Verify PDF or the Freedom Makers PDF. And so if you need anything, from the X-Verify side, you're interested in setting up an account, we'd be more than happy to help you. Just go to xverify.com. We also will offer a free demonstration and as well as a free trial of our tools. So we do highly appreciate you for coming out here today and taking your time and getting on the webinar with us. And I hope that you learned a lot of valuable information. And then you should also be getting a recording of the webinar today as well, in case you came in late or didn't get a chance to view it, or I just want to recap on a couple of things. So thank you very much for coming out, and thank you, Annabelle and Laura, for being panelists today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Krista. Thank you, Laura. It's been a pleasure working with you guys today. And thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thanks to you both. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Okay, bye.